Radio Split Ranch.
Hello and welcome once again to Radio Split Ranch, a monthly visit with the Capital Region's great radio personalities of the past and sometimes present. I'm Warren Garling when I'm not on the radio. I hope you're enjoying our opening theme music because I asked one of the most talented local singer-songwriters to compose it for me in exchange for a monthly plug here on the podcast. The composer is Drew Jacobs, who appears in concert with John McEwen of the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band on February 27th at the Linda in Albany. His latest CD of song parodies is just a command away. Just ask Alexa or any streaming service to play Selfie Absorbed, and you'll be sure to have a laugh or five. Speaking of laughs, I hope you have your laughing shoes on for this month's conversation at the Radio Split Ranch. This broadcasting veteran has done both radio and TV as a disc jockey and newsman, plus worked in government and education, and is soon to be an internationally published author. Fasten your seatbelts for our visit with the very creative Bryan Jackson. Who would have thunk about 45 years ago, when I was on WGNA and you and Joe Gallagher were on WOKO, that I'd eventually sit here and interview you both, one at a time, thank goodness. We don't need, interruption from him. Bryan Jackson.
Well, thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
When Joe was here, you had sent me one of the promos that you did, and he had trouble with the billing. He thought that, you shouldn't get top billing on his show. It should be him getting a top billing, and you help out.
Right. We were doing a promo about what a great team we were.
Yes, exactly.
And then we got in an argument about whose name should go first.
Right.
And I said B comes before J, and then he said, but Gallagher comes before Jackson. And,
all that stuff.
We got in a big argument about it, and we still haven't gotten over that argument.
Yeah, I know.
I'm not talking to him to this day.
It's very hard at the lunches that we have to sit you guys, near each other. I know. It's tough. So, but let's go back before all of that, because I want to know why on earth or when it was that you decided radio was something you wanted to get into.
Oh, well, it goes back to high school. I had a pirate radio station, as many people who started out in radio did.
Yeah.
It was in my bedroom. It started out at 1/10 of a watt, which was the legal FCC limit at the time. And then I hooked up with a friend of mine. His brother had a amateur radio transmitter that put out 100 watts.
Whoa.
And I picked out a frequency, 1200, because that was a clear channel frequency. Mm-hmm. Had a crystal made for it. And then I had about 400 feet of copper wire strung up in trees. And my house was was in northern New Jersey, and you could get the station at the George Washington Bridge, which was 15 miles away.
Whoa.
And the FCC eventually showed up at my door.
I was going to say, that does happen. Yeah.
Yeah. And the guy's name was Dave Popkins.
You remember the man's name from the FCC?
Well, there's a reason I almost killed the man.
Oh, no.
I let him in. I was very proud. I was, that somebody would, be that interested in what we had going on.
Yeah, what are you 15, 16 at the time?
Yeah, I think 16. I invited him in and took him up to my bedroom. Well, this old amateur radio transmitter, which I don't know, it was probably from the 40s or something, the chassis was hot.
Oh, boy.
It was electrically not isolated, I guess.
Yeah.
And I had it sitting on a piece of plywood on top of a cast iron radiator. And so this guy, Dave Popkins, the FCC guy, is leaning on he's got his hand on the radiator leaning in towards this thing. And he takes out like a screwdriver, a pen or something. It was metal. And he touches the transmitter as I'm about to tell him, and all of a sudden, bam! And this guy flies across the room, lands on my bed. And I'm thinking to myself, I just killed a federal agent. I'm going to jail. Oh, my God, And he kind of shook it off, and I said, I'm terribly sorry, but that you can't touch
two things at once, and
you'll get 110 volts through your eyes. And anyway, my father, who I had convinced that this was all perfectly legal, wound up getting a letter from the FCC to stop and desist.
Oh my Lord! What an auspicious start!
Oh yeah. But that was my early beginnings in broadcasting.
What call letters did you choose?
It was WASB. It stood
standing for
American Standard Broadcasting.
Oh boy, you went fancy.
And then later, I went back on as a pirate and changed it to the voice of the yellow jelly bean. That was
Yeah, we obviously are talking the psychedelic 60s.
well,
here.
yeah, and they had bands like Moby Grape and things like that. So I picked voice of the yellow jelly bean, and so that was my first foray into broadcasting.
Yeah.
But I was, growing up, radio in 50s and 60s when I was growing up. Everybody had a favorite disc jockey.
Oh, sure.
These guys were your friends.
Yep. You could call them up and request or talk with them on the phone.
It was like having a friend, an unseen friend.
Yep.
And that so attracted me to radio that it was such a great way to communicate with people. And, And so I kind of got hooked. And one of my favorite guys was Dan Ingram. I mean,
gosh.
The late Dan Ingram, unfortunately, but he was on WABC in New York, and the guy was just you could be so depressed or in the worst mood, sad, and you turn him on, and in 5 minutes you were laughing and forgot what your cares were about,
Yep.
And he would always call the Long Island Expressway the Long Island Distress Way,
Right.
and it just little things like that. But he was just very quick in the patter, and so he was really probably a primary force in me saying, this sounds like it'd be a fun kind of a thing to do.
Yeah, we all have them, and if you've listened to any of the folks that previously sat where you're sitting, in this area it was Boom Boom Brannigan.
Oh, yeah.
He was just the ultimate as far as we were concerned.
And
there were others, but Boom Boom seemed to be the one that got so many of us interested.
Yeah, and later on, I worked at WPTR, did Saturday nights for a while, and people would say to me, "Do you know Boom Boom Brannigan?"
Sure.
And I would say,
question.
"I know Boom Boom Brannigan well enough to call him by his first boom." So, But this little radio station that I had, we did some very innovative programming. We had a program called "Sorry Wrong Number" that we would pre-record. This is long before the Jerky Boys.
Okay.
And my friend he knew different neighborhoods in Paterson, New Jersey, where he had come from, and we lived in Glen Rock, which is about 5 or 8 miles away, I guess. And we would call people up, and it would always be the A&B something, A&B Dirt Company. He called up a guy one time, and it was, "This is the A&B Dirt Company. We have a truckload of dirt to deliver to your house." And the guy's like, "I live in an apartment." And he's like, "Oh, no, we have to deliver." No, maybe the rent man ordered the dirt. And, well, I got to bring the dirt over to you. And it was just funny stuff. And
now, what did you have the suction cup on the phone?
I think we did. Yeah, the old suction cup went on the phone to record it.
Yeah, and I had one of those. Yeah.
And my buddy Floyd would do this, and he was really quick. And he would say, "I'll tell you what we're going to do. We're going to bring the dirt over, and we'll put it on the roof." And the guy's like, "I live on the 3rd floor. How are you going to get to the roof?" And he goes, "Well, I'll throw in some free tomato plants. You'll have your own garden, And the guy's like, "No, And then he says, "I'll put the dirt out front. You let the kids play in the dirt, and little by little it'll go away, And of course, he's using like Italian accents and stuff and all this.
Sure,
so I mean, but it was really funny stuff. And another time he called a guy up, A&B House Wrecking Company. We're coming over to wreck your house. And this poor guy is like, buys right into it. "Why are you going to knock my house down?"
Yeah. So you're doing Imus routines well before Imus was doing
even before Imus was doing them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Oh,
and
that's crazy.
somewhere there's still a cassette of that I can't find. I think a friend of mine has a copy, but I need to dig it out because that stuff was
it's
pretty classic.
Priceless, I'd say, especially at your age.
Yeah.
So you've been doing this kind of craziness on the radio since before you were really on the radio. Legally, I should say.
My actual first real gig was at, I think, 1968 at WBZA in Glens Falls.
Sure, I know the calls. Yeah.
I hung around there, and they finally let me work on a weekend or something like that.
Yep, sounds familiar.
So that was very exciting to be on the radio. And
Sure.
And actually, they had me doing Saturday and Sundays, and we lived in New Jersey, although my family, a lot of my family lived in Glens Falls. And every weekend, my parents would drive me up to Glens Falls.
Are you serious?
So I could be on the radio.
Now, I thought it was cool that my mom and dad got me my whole first summer on the radio, and I worked 7 days a week my first summer on the radio.
Yeah.
They would get me to and from work, but it was only from East Glenville to Schenectady and back. The weekends, your parents are driving you up. And would they stay with the relatives?
Yeah,
or,
yeah, we would
and-
stay with my grandmother's house
Yeah,
or
yeah.
my aunt and uncle's house, and so I lived most of my early life on the thruway. It was
Sure. So they believed in what you were trying to do as much as my folks did. They supported me 100%.
yeah, they actually and we went to Glens Falls all the time anyway for all the holidays and everything. So
That's wild.
they had no problem doing it, and then. I guess they liked me enough that when summer came, they asked me if I wanted to work there for the summer, covering vacations and stuff. And so,
So you were still in school at the time.
yeah.
Okay. So this was, between your junior, senior year, or where were you, do you think?
This was high school, probably junior, senior year.
Yeah, okay. All right.
And then,
Yeah,
of course, I got my driver's license and stuff and whatnot, and kind of got on my own. But so Glens Falls was the beginning, and we used to do some crazy stuff.
Really?
Oh, in radio, you could get away with all kinds of crazy stuff. And there was a guy. Some new guys bought the station, and some of the old staff was still there.
Okay.
And they were putting in playlists, and they were putting in record rotation. Previously,
It was catch can sort of thing.
Whoever was
Do
on the
your-
air
yeah.
played whatever they wanted to play, and
Yeah,
so forth.
exactly. Yeah.
Within boundaries, but there
Again,
weren't many.
It sounds like KAJ in Saratoga when I was there. I got there and there was really no format.
Yeah.
The afternoon guy was big into Sinatra and Ella Fitzgerald, and so that's what you heard. And then I'd come on and I'd play the Carpenters and Neil Diamond, and that's
Well, there was a guy who worked. I don't remember his name, but he would come in a suit and tie. Still, and everybody else is wearing shorts and jeans and T-shirts.
free T-shirts from the record
And
company.
he was doing, I think, the afternoon shift. And there was a contest. You had to guess, I think, how many S&H green stamps were in the jackpot.
Yeah.
And there was a winner. There were two tape cartridges. One was labeled winner and one was labeled loser, And depending on whether they guessed the right amount of green stamps, you would play winner or loser. So we decided to switch the labels.
Oh, jeez.
So this guy gets on the air, and there's no delay. The station did not have the money for a delay, so it's live on the air.
It's live, yeah.
And he gets this woman on the air, and he goes, how many S&H green stamps this hour? And she throws out a number, and he goes, I'm terribly sorry. And he hits the loser cartridge, and
it's now the winner.
It goes, da, 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 winner. And he's going, no, you didn't. And the woman's yelling, I've never won anything in my life. He's going, no, you didn't win. Here, listen. He hits it again, da, 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 winner. And he gets in an argument with her on the air that she's lost, and she's thinking she won. And finally, right over the air, she just goes, well, that's a hell of a thing, and hangs up the phone on the guy. And of course, he's panicked because swear words got out of the air.
Exactly.
And he left shortly after that, and I think he's still at Four Winds in therapy, as I recall. So,
see, this is the stuff you could get away with back then.
Oh, yeah.
That you don't hear any of anymore. You don't hear a newsman breaking up because somebody set the copy on fire on him while he's reading it, or any of that stuff anymore.
Another time at BZA, Jim Scott did the news.
I remember Jim.
And Jim would record the 7 o'clock news and do the 6 o'clock news live, but he would have the 7 o'clock news recorded because he would leave after the 6 o'clock news. Mm-hmm. And what they did was they told him that the cough button, if you had to clear your throat, there was a button shut off the microphone that you could control. They told him the cough button wasn't working. And what they did was at 6 o'clock, they put on the recorded newscast, but piped into his headphones his voice, thinking he's on the air. And then the sales manager and the chief engineer met up with each other behind him in the newsroom where he's on the air and got into an argument. And they're
all sorts of four-letter words.
USOB,
right.
this, rah, 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 rah. And of course he's waving his hands and trying to get their attention, thinking he's on the air. And these guys are having this massive argument behind him with every language you wouldn't even hear from a sailor.
Exactly.
And of course, what's on the air is his taped newscast, but he had no idea. He thought he's on the air, and there's the World War III's going on behind him. So, but that's the kind of stuff we used to do. Just crazy stuff, have a lot of fun,
Now, I talk about a couple of those things that Walt Fritz used to pull on me when I first joined SNY. And, same sort of stuff. He turned the mic on. He saw me coming in the door, so he turns the mic on, but puts it in audition. And pretends he's on the air and starts using four-letter words. That was the blankety-blank Bee Gees or whatever, And I'm standing there, 16 and a half years old. I'm standing there going, oh my God, what's going on? And he just, turns it back off and starts laughing.
Well, being a small station, the morning news, I was a news director, but the morning news was done by the general manager who had been a news guy.
Oh, okay.
So he would come in and do the 6 to 9, and then I would come in and do the rest of the day from 9 to 6. And I would leave him news stories.
Okay.
Well, there used to be a product, I don't know if it's still around, called Allerest.
I remember it.
And
Yep,
it was
yep.
like for colds or hay
Sure.
fever or something.
Yep.
And the commercial had a sneeze in it. So what I did was I edited together about 20 sneezes in a row. And he wouldn't listen to this stuff ahead of time. He'd just go on the air at 6 o'clock. And I said, researchers at Glens Falls Hospital believe they found a cure for the common cold. The WBZA News spoke to Dr. Joe Schmo, and he told us, and he hits the cartridge, and all you hear is, and it goes on and on and on. And I walk in the station around 9 o'clock, and this tape cartridge comes flying down the hallway, almost hit me in the head. He was not pleased.
No.
But I listened
But he
to
must
it.
have had some sense of humor.
Oh, I listened to it on the air. It was the funniest thing I ever heard in my life.
That's too much. No, the stuff we could get away with back then, and the audience had no clue what was going on. They just knew it was funny, and that, if you guys are laughing, they're laughing.
Oh yeah. I mean, some of it was obvious, some of it wasn't, but we had a lot of fun.
So from BZA, did you make your way down to the Capital District?
Well, let's see. Yes, I guess I did. I wound up getting a job at WOKO.
Yeah.
Again, doing news.
Right.
And I was working the afternoon. I worked at BZA like 3 times.
Oh, okay.
And so after college, I wound up there full time. But in the meantime, I had worked at WGNY in Newburgh. And
wow.
I was working there weekends and summers and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And the guys who bought WBZA had worked at GNY. So one of them stopped in one day and he said, hey, we need a news director. And I was jockeying. I was a jock at the time. And I was kind of tired of playing the same, 25, 30 records over and over again. Mm-hmm. And he goes, would you be interested? And I said, yeah, And so I went up. My grandmother had a house with some apartments in it. So I was able to get an apartment with her. And so I wound up in Glens Falls. And then the afternoon news drive opened up in WOKO. And we used to trade news stories. They would give me stuff from the
that's
Capitol.
how I knew Jim Scott. That's how I knew him. From WHAZ, which was connected to WGNA.
Right.
I was in the news department, so Jim would do stories for us from the North Country, and I would give him stuff from the Capitol.
Exactly,
District.
and I had this whole network of people set up.
We called them stringers at the time.
So I would get stories out of the Capitol from OKO, and I would feed them stuff going on, in Saratoga, Warren County, that area.
Right.
So when they had an opening for a news guy, I went down and eventually wound up becoming news director of OKO.
There you go.
And I can remember one. I don't know if you remember. There was a guy named Red Sovine. He had a song.
I do.
Had a song called Teddy Bear.
Yeah.
And it became the #1 country hit.
Yep.
And it was about this paralyzed kid who his father had been killed in a truck wreck, and the only thing left was a CB radio, and Teddy Bear would sit in his bedroom and talk to all the truckers.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the song, the truckers all show up and take Teddy Bear for a ride in their trucks.
Yeah.
And if the song was #1, they would play it twice an hour.
Yes.
On OKO. And I'm in the newsroom, and I would just and the song just stayed at #1 forever.
Exactly, yeah.
And by about the 12th week, I'm like, I just want to put a Luger in my mouth and end it, And finally, the song falls off the charts, and I go, thank God that's over, It was such a depressing,
it was.
Teddy Bear's last ride.
Yeah.
And about a week goes by, and all of a sudden I hear this song come on, and it's some woman, I don't know who sang it, but it was Teddy Bear's Last Ride.
Yes.
And that went to like #1, and I was like, oh my God, kill me now, so.
Remember it well. Well, it's interesting that you were doing news, and yet your the stuff you did with Joe was just so off the wall and crazy, drop things, things that you would drop in and voices that you would do, and and all that stuff. Did you guys just hit it off immediately?
I think so. Joe was doing the evening show. He was doing 7 to midnight.
Yes, I was opposite him when I first came to when I came back to GNA after being a news director. I went away for a year, came back and did evenings, and I was opposite Joe.
Yeah,
I couldn't listen to him, but people told me, you know who you're up against, because he was very popular doing the country stuff.
I mean, and to be honest with you, I really wasn't into country music that much.
Same here.
But I worked at the station, so I was listening to it, and I'm listening to Joe, and he's just cracking me up. He's hysterical.
Oh,
he's
so
one of the
good.
funniest guys I've ever heard.
Yeah.
And so when Cheerful Charlie left, he was the morning guy.
Yep.
They put Joe on mornings, and I was on moved to morning news, and so we just started doing stuff together.
Sure.
And because I was still a frustrated jock, I mean, I enjoyed news because it was different every day. I wasn't playing the same 40 records, but at the same time, I missed that creative side of being, an error personality.
Right.
So
this was an outlet for you.
Yeah,
we
we just started,
team up with them,
hey, let's do this or let's do that, or how about I do this or I do that, and we just started doing stupid bits on the air, and having some fun with it, so.
Okay, Joe, here's the commercial for our show in the morning here on WOKO. This part is the part here where we tell the people that we're on from 5:30 to 9 every morning and stuff.
You did a good job with it.
Yeah,
good job.
So if you're all set, we'll do
let's
it
go.
and we'll record it so they can put it on the air.
Okay, good.
Hi, I'm Bryan Jackson.
Oh, no, wait a minute. This is one thing I don't like about that.
What's that?
I'll start off by saying, hi, I'm Joe Gallagher.
No, Joe, that's not the way I wrote it. You see, this is a team
I know,
show.
we're a team.
It's a team.
Hi, I'm Joe Gallagher.
No, that's not the way I wrote it. I'll do it my way.
I think I gotta do it my way, pal.
Listen, we're always doing things your way. Let's do things my way for once. Now, this is a team, and let's get this team together.
Okay, it goes first. It's no big deal.
Hi, I'm Bryan
Joe
Jackson.
Gallagher.
Listen, pal.
Now, look.
Half the time you don't even show up on time at 5:30 to go on the air. That should just be the Bryan Jackson
Look,
show.
I was on time twice this week, and don't throw that in my face.
Yeah, sure. Listen, I'm
This
just
is a
about
small
had it
thing
with
to
it.
argue about.
Listen, all right? Hey, you want to do it your way?
I'll
You
do it my way.
Well, I'm not going to do it at all.
Where are you going?
Goodbye.
We're a team.
Yeah, great stuff.
And it was a lot of fun. We just really enjoyed it, and we seem to get pretty good feedback from folks.
Yeah,
So,
well, ratings-wise, you were doing just fine. I can tell you that because, again, I was competing with you, and it took me quite a long time. In fact, I was not any longer on in the evenings. I went to mornings around the same time you and Joe did, and started, teaming up. And a long time before, GNA as an FM powerhouse could, surpass you guys.
yeah, it seemed like Albany adopted FM radio later than a lot of other
I think
markets.
so.
AM stations seem to remain dominant here long after a lot of markets like New York and Chicago, the audience had shifted over to FM.
You look at WTRY. I was there part-time from 88 to 92, and we were 980 AM, and we were still in the top five, five or six stations. Yeah.
And OKO was always like third or fourth. I mean, GY was always the perennial number one,
Exactly.
but they had the big signal.
Yep.
And they also, as I say, country music is kind of more of a niche. It has a good-sized audience, but... we only had 5,000 watts, and GY had 50,000, so that was part of the difference as well. We were just outpowered in many respects, and I think I left OKO to go to Channel 13.
Yes.
And about that time, and shortly after that, then you started to see the erosion of AM audiences to FM.
Yeah. Now, did you work with Paul Conti over there?
I worked at Paul. Paul called me up one day. I think he was the assistant news director, and he says, "Are you ready to come to TV?"
To TV, yeah.
And I said, "Yeah, okay, And it was a lot of money. It was like twice what I was making in radio.
Sure.
And so I went over and started covering the state capitol for Channel 13.
There you go. Well, Paul was our news director at GNA, before he went to 13.
Yep.
And I remember talking with him a few months later, and I said, so, how you liking it? He goes, well, not only am I getting paid more, but there's more of a budget here than you ever thought you had in the news department on radio.
Oh, yeah.
So he was very, he was there a long time.
Of course, the first time I went there, the call letters were WAST, which was so fitting. We were third in the market, and it was waste television. I was like, why didn't they call it like SAT, Schenectady, Albany, Troy, but they had Albany, Schenectady, Troy, and it came out waste.
Yeah.
And we were a perennial third. And again, we were able to do some stuff you can't get away with in corporate world these days. You know?
Right. Well, back then you were also network-wise. You were with ABC.
Well, it was Network of the Week. We were ABC when I got there, and then ABC had a big ratings jump with a lot of the sitcoms,
right?
And they went to Channel 10,
right,
which was CBS,
right?
And they swapped. So Channel 13 wound up becoming CBS
for not all that long.
No, and then. CBS started having some good ratings and went over to Channel 6, which had been an NBC station forever. And 13 wound up picking up
there you go.
NBC.
The current lineup we have,
And then they ran out of stations and networks, and they were like, I guess we'll just stay NBC.
There you go.
But oh my God, we used to have a lot of fun.
Yeah. So what was the newsroom like back in we're now talking the mid 80s probably. You're there.
Yeah. First time I was there was like 1978, 79 until August of 80.
Okay.
And then I went back. I built an FM station in Albany, 96.3.
Yes, I remember.
Ran that for about 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you another story very quickly about that in a second. But I sold that and then went back to 13.
Okay.
Actually, I went over to drop a news release off. I was working for a guy who was running for governor, Jim LaRocca, and I dropped a news release off over at 13. I wanted to stop in and say hi to Benita and everybody that was still there that I knew.
Yeah.
And Paul goes, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, I just sold the station, and I'm just kind of, helping out Jim with his run for governor. I don't think he's got much of a shot because, he's just not having much luck raising money." He goes, "Well, I'm in a bind." And I said, "Well, what's the bind?" And he goes, "Well, everybody's out with the flu and I got vacations and I'm really short. Would you consider coming over and filling in for a couple of months?"
Wow.
And I said, "Yeah, I guess so." And he goes, "Can you start tomorrow?" Literally, "Can you start tomorrow?" I said, "Yeah, okay, I'll come in tomorrow."
Yeah.
So I kind of got back into it and enjoyed it. And the 2 months wound up becoming 2 years.
There you go.
But I had a lot of fun there, enjoyed it.
So let's get back to what made you think you could own and run your own radio station?
I have no idea. I really don't. It was funny. There was actually an ad in the Times-Union that I happened to see. It was a little tiny classified ad, and it said, FM radio frequency available. And I said, what's this all about? So I contacted the guy. I was an attorney in Washington, a communications attorney, and he had identified a open frequency in the Albany market, and he ran this little ad. And I called him, and the next thing I know, we're filing for the frequency.
Wow.
We had 7 competitors. Including WAMC wanted to take the frequency as well.
Sure.
And I went through the hearings with the FCC, and I did a lot of the legal work myself to try to hold down the costs.
Yeah.
In fact, I wrote a bunch of the briefs and stuff that we had to file. And my attorney at the time said, "You ever thought about were you ever a lawyer? Did you ever think about it?" I said, "No, I just kind of enjoy, the legal side of it."
Yeah.
But actually won out over the 7 applicants and got the license.
Wow,
and,
good for you.
Put the station on the air. And so we tried to run kind of a full-service FM radio station.
I remember it. I listened.
And we had personalities. And
you got Joe over there for a while.
Wejoe came over and did mornings for a while with me. And my whole thing with Joe was I would do whatever I could to crack him up. I would walk, we weren't doing a team show because I think I was doing afternoon drive or something, even though I owned the station. But I would come in and I would say, "Mr. Gallagher," I said, I would come in and tell him I was the film critic. And we would just wing it,
Yeah.
And I said, "Yes, I went to see the new film," and whatever the film was, Ladies of the Night or something, and and Joe would just start laughing because I'm doing this voice,
Right.
And I would say, I just, he'd go, "Well, how was the film?" "I don't know. A woman sat down with a big bouffant hairdo right in front of me, and I couldn't see a damn thing." And he would just fall off the chair,
Fuming drivers, bumper-to-bumper traffic, overheated engines, toll booth every quarter mile. All happening this Sunday! Sunday on the Garden State Parkway. A great traffic jam starting at 2 p.m. See Big Daddy Bob McGraw with his 2 car-sick kids inching up the parkway in his 3 out of 8-cylinder country Squire.
See State Trooper Larry Daly rear-end a pedal truck.
See a Puerto Rican family changing tires in the fast lane.
See Sister Mary McNettigal back up 80 yards to the exit ramp.
All happening this Sunday!
Sunday!
Sunday on the Garden State Parkway. A great traffic jam starting at 2 p.m. south of exit 145. Take Route 1 east to Route 2 south, then Route 3 north, Route 4 west. Back up 2 routes to the Garden State Parkway. Park your car in the middle lane and start a traffic jam of your own. Sunday!
Sunday!
Sunday on the Garden State Parkway. Be there!
So we would just do stupid stuff like that, you know.
Did you pick up where you left off?
Oh yeah, I mean
yeah.
my whole what would make my day is if I could get Joe to crack up and just lose it.
Did you have a regular shift at the time?
Yeah, I was doing the afternoon show at that time.
All right, yeah.
And
the owner and general manager, and were you also the sales manager, or did you have
I did have a sales manager,
Okay.
But you know, and it was. I think early 90s was still kind of a... Didn't we hit a recession or something?
We did, shortly after I changed jobs, yes.
Yeah, we were...
Early
so,
90s, yeah.
You know, advertising was tough to come by.
Sure.
And, you know, I would ask the sales manager, you know, how are things out there? And he goes, well, the people that don't even pay the bills aren't buying advertising. And I said, oh, I see. And I remember a guy named Larry Delarose. This is when I worked at WGNY. Larry was a kind of a very dry humor, and he was a sales guy at the station, and he was having a particularly bad dry run of advertising. Nobody was buying anything, and then he would have to go out and try to collect the money for the ads that had run.
Oh yeah.
And I remember one day he came in, and I said, "How's it going, Larry?" He goes, "Because the next business I go into is going to have a cash register right by the door."
That's the only time I did sales. That's the part that bothered me the most.
Yeah.
Because I had been on the air and I'd been produced commercials. So I could sell based on that. I said, well, I can see, you know, I'd stand there and sell the person on an idea about how to advertise. And so I did, my sales were great. Then I had to go out and collect.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it was awful. I only did it for about 6 months. And I said, there's just no way I'll ever try this again.
Yeah, it was a real struggle. I mean, you know, the creative side of radio when I owned the station was fun.
Oh, had to be.
Trying to meet payroll every 2 weeks was
who was expecting this payroll? Tell us some other names of folks that came through your doors there that you remember.
Oh, let's see. Joe worked there. I'm trying to think.
You had some news people too, didn't you?
Yeah,
a little bit of a news department.
Chris Benoit was the news director.
I remember Chris. Okay.
And I remember one time, Chris was kind of a newbie, and but his heart was in the right place. He was a hard worker, and he said he was doing a thing about Passover, and he said, and I was on the air. It was afternoon drive, and he goes, Jews all over the world are celebrating Passover with a cedar instead of Seder.
Yeah.
And so when he got done with the news, I said, some of them celebrate it with mahogany, and as opposed to cedar, But so I used to give him a hard time now and again.
Yeah.
But
no, it was a fun station to listen to. And I was out of the business full-time by this time, just doing part-time work. And I was right down the street from you in Corporate Circle.
Oh, yeah.
And so I remember coming once, and it may have been while Joe was on the air there. I don't know. I do remember getting a quick tour one day because I was right down the street.
Yeah, it was fun. I mean, I wish I could have, sustained it financially, but it was just a struggle. And the other problem was, the FCC at one time, as you know, had ownership caps.
Yes.
One owner could own, I think, 5 AMs and 5 FMs and 5 TVs.
Right.
And then they expanded it to 7, and then they pretty much lifted the caps. So what you wound up happening was you had all these individual single owner stations, my station being one of them. Bob Hill had WHRL.
Right.
Another guy had 104.5. And there was another one on 94.5. They were all relatively new stations, but they were all single owner stations.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, the Clear Channels of the world started coming in and buying 7 or 8 stations.
Yeah.
And it was just tough to compete. You go out and say, hey, we're going to make you this great deal. Well, this guy says if I buy, 2 of his stations, he'll give me 5 free,
Yeah, right.
And it was a hard road to hoe.
Yeah.
And we did try to see if we could team up the individual operators and form kind of a conglomerate of all the stations. The trouble was, it was everybody. Nobody wanted to lose control of their individual station.
Sure.
I guess
Yeah, makes sense.
So it never really kind of came together. But I said maybe we at least could, do sales together or something. So I did pursue that to try to keep it going because I said, we're either gonna circle the wagons or we're gonna get nailed here because these big conglomerates are coming in and just buying everything up.
Right. Now, did you make a profit when you sold?
I think August 5th, 1997, we made a profit that day. And that was about it, I think.
Okay.
But I always had a plan B. I knew the station was worth something. Mm-hmm. So I knew that even if it came to the point where I had to divest of it, just because it was not financially viable, I knew that I probably could get, what I paid for it and then some.
Yeah, I thought.
And so, we sold it to Albany Broadcasting. It wasn't a home run, but it was a stand-up double.
Yeah, good.
So everybody, and we had a few investors that had come in. So we did okay.
Good
we
for
did
you.
okay. And, would I do it again? Perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
They have better drugs now, to kind of help you deal with the stress.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, you talk to anybody that was in the radio business in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and they'll tell you that their dream, now that they're 70 themselves, in age, is, let's get together with some friends and buy a station.
Oh, yeah.
And do what we want to do with it, because it's in our blood. We'd still want to do it, even though the business has changed so much.
Yeah, I mean, and there's a couple of problems. One, of course, is the huge consolidation of media by the big players. The other thing is, too, all of the mom and pop advertisers, a lot of them have just been run out of business by Walmart and Target and Amazon.
Oh, yeah. You're right.
I mean, you used to be able to go to, Kathy's gift shop.
Exactly.
And for Mother's Day, she'd spend $100 with you.
Yeah.
Or you could go to Bob's hardware store.
Yeah.
And, you'd say, hey, the spring is here. People are going to start renovating their house. Oh, yeah, I'll buy the $500 package.
Exactly, yeah.
And, of course, there were car dealers. You have some car dealers that were always probably the more steady customers.
Right.
But, now, Bob's Hardware has gotten blown out by Home Depot. And
Exactly.
Kathy's gift shop has been blown out by, Target or Walmart or whatever, or Amazon.
Yeah.
So,
A lot of it's changed.
all of those small advertisers. Well, look at iHeartMedia. They own, 7,000 stations or something.
Yeah, right.
And they're struggling because
they
too are finding that the ad dollars, that used to be there, it's a real struggle to go find them.
Sure. So you take up Paul on his offer to go back to TV news, and you were there for a couple of years. What did you do for him there?
Basically covered the state capitol.
Okay.
Was the state capitol bureau chief, and I also, when I worked at WOKO, I was picking up more money covering the state capitol for NBC.
For other stations, yep.
And WNBC in New York and WOR in New York than I was making on my regular gig. In fact, NBC at one time had the News and Information Network.
Yeah.
And they would call me up and go, we need 7 stories. I go, okay, on what? We don't care. Just give us 7 stories or to fill in news 24/7.
Yeah.
So I would go out and find 7 stories. If it ran on just WNBC in New York, they paid me $50. And I think if it ran on the network, I got 75 or 100.
Wow.
And I was getting checks every other day from NBC.
Nice.
For more money than I was making as news director at WOKO.
There you go.
I was like, wow, this is sweet.
Not bad.
Then they got rid of the News and Information Network because just, I guess, wasn't financially viable.
Right.
And the news director left WNBC, and he went to WOR, and he called me and he goes, will you come over to WOR? And so he was paying me a flat retainer every month. But I would always, as soon as the story broke, have it down to them. So they knew that if something was happening in Albany, I was on it. So.
Yeah, nice.
And I was doing morning news at OKO, so I'd get off at noon, and that's about the time state legislators wake up and crawl into the Capitol for their all-night bender at the old Ambassador, the bar that was across the street, and start, legislating. So it was very interesting. I enjoyed it. But
sounds like it. Yeah.
And then I had WEBR in Buffalo, too. I covered the Capitol for them.
Cool.
So, I always had 2 or 3 stations that were, interested in what was going on in state government, and
which you eventually went into, if I'm not mistaken.
I did.
Was that the segue out of Channel 13 News to?
I was at Channel 13, and Jim LaRocca was the state energy commissioner.
Okay,
and I had met him a few times. He liked me. He was watching me on Channel 13, and he had a intermediary that I knew contact me and go, Jim wants to know if you want to come over and do his public relations. And I said, because I really enjoyed broadcasting, and I was having fun.
Yeah.
And he must have called me 3 or 4 times, and finally goes, Jim really wants you, and he's going to pay you this. And it was twice what I was making at Channel 13.
Oh, there you go.
And I was like, oh, man.
How can you say no?
And then so I went over and met with Jim LaRocca, and he goes, come over and try it. If you don't like it, feel free to go back to TV or whatever you want to do. But I'd really like you to, I think, you know all the local media guys. I think you'd do well in it. And so I did. I took the job. It was a big transition for me because news, at the end of the day, you had all these neat little packages. You'd done 7 newscasts or you'd done 2 TV stories, and you were done. And the next day was kind of a clean slate, unless you were working on a series or something.
Right.
But in PR, it was like you write a news release, and then it had to go to this guy to be cleared, and then he'd mark it up and then send it back to you, and then you'd have to send it to another guy. And so the process really threw me. I was kind of like, oh, what am I doing? And so it took me a while to get acclimated to doing PR because radio and TV had a deadline.
Yes.
All the time, and you were hitting it, and you always had the challenge of the deadline and getting the story, and of course being in competition with the other stations, and getting the story first and so forth. So it was fun. And speaking of competition, we used to do the school closings, and at WOKO, of course, long before all the computerized stuff and everything.
Sure.
The schools would call you, and they had their code, and they'd say, this is East Greenbush, code 9234, and you'd check. So, and I was certain, I don't remember what other station it was, but I was certain that they were stealing our school closings. And I was like, I'm almost sure they're stealing our school closings. And, it was, here I'm doing all this work, and they're just copying my stuff off the air.
Yeah.
So one day I'm doing the school closings, and I threw one in. I threw in the Leo Gorcey Memorial High School is closed today. And about 5 or 10 minutes later on the other station, I hear, and the Leo Gorcey Memorial High School is closed today. I was like, yeah, okay.
That confirms it. Yeah, exactly.
I said, my suspicions are confirmed, So, and then, and Joe and I would do stupid stuff. I would go, the Voorheesville School for the Deaf is closed today. Let me repeat that. The Voorheesville School for the Deaf is closed today. And then
Bad.
which is bad stuff.
Terrible.
Stuff you couldn't get away with today,
You can't
probably.
do it today. No.
So
not PC.
But we did a lot of stuff that wasn't PC, I think. Oh, God.
So you worked in the energy office for a while for this gentleman?
Yeah, did energy. And then was called up and asked if I would come over and work in the governor's office as press officer to the governor.
Cool.
Which I thought would be, wow, this will be great.
Tell us the governor at the time.
It was Mario Cuomo.
Okay.
Not the Prince of Darkness, his son. But it was Mario. And he was, I liked him. He was a decent guy. He had like his quirks like everybody else. But we would take turns going on trips with him if he was going like to the state fair or something,
Sure.
And if you got the short straw, you had to go with him in the plane contained in this tube. And on the way to wherever you were going was fine because he'd be looking at all his briefing papers and stuff.
So he's busy and he's got
busy.
other things on his
Then
mind.
on the way back, it was like, who's fair game? He would just
no.
go after people. In fact, sometimes we'd have the press with us on the plane, and he would get on some reporter's case about a story he had written. And I would have the reporter come up to me and go, can I just get off the plane? And I go, well, we're
30,000 feet.
We're 16,000 feet over Utica. He goes, I don't care. Just open the door and let me out. So what I found out was Mario Cuomo was like a heroin addict when it came to cashews.
Okay.
This man cashews was his weakness.
Okay.
So there's a place in the Empire State Plaza, the South Mall. It was called the Nut House, and they sold every kind of nut you can think of.
I thought that was the legislature, but
well, that was a subsidiary.
Oh, okay.
So I would go to the Nut House. I would get 2 pounds of cashews, and I put them in my briefcase. So as soon as we got back on the plane to come back to Albany, I would open my briefcase and go, "Hey, Governor, I got some cashews. You want some?" Oh, and I'd hand him a pound of cashews, and then he would say to Marty Burke, who was his bodyguard for the state police, he'd go, "Marty, I think there might be a cold beer or two up in the refrigerator," and we'd start talking about baseball.
All right.
And the trip back would be great.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, and it got to the point where if I had the trip on the plane, Marty would pull me aside and he'd go, "Do you have the cashews?" I go, 2 pounds, Marty. Oh, good, thank God, So I would, like I say, I would feed him cashews and keep him calmed down all the way back.
That's too much.
Yeah.
That's great. At one point he was talking about a baseball commissioner.
Oh, yeah.
Mario was.
Yeah. So,
he was really into the baseball.
And the other thing is you'd sit in the press office, and if he called the press office, there was a multi-line phone, and there was one of the lines was red.
Okay, yep.
And it had this bell that would go off, and it would be him. And you were supposed to answer it on the first ring. That was,
of course.
As soon as you answer that.
Yeah.
And so I always wanted to do this. I never did it, but I wanted to do it. The bell would go off, and I wanted to just pick it up and go, "Who is it?" But I
decided that wouldn't work.
But I didn't dare. But people,
dare.
one of the nicest compliments I got from somebody in the press corps one time was that they called me Mario Cuomo's sense of humor. I said, "Well, thank you. I appreciate that. That means a lot to me."
And I would imagine you need one when you're working in government. That high in government anyway.
It was 24/7.
Exactly.
I mean, it just didn't end, and especially during the budget. You basically live there. Mm-hmm. So, in fact, I finally decided, I was there for about a year, and I had a newborn son, and we were going through budget season, and I was working probably 18 hours a day, 20 hours a day. I go home, take a shower, get an hour's sleep, and go back. And finally the budget got passed, and I'm sitting at the dining room table or the kitchen table on a Saturday morning having a cup of coffee, and my son walks into the kitchen, and I go, "When did he start walking?"
Oh, jeez.
And my wife goes, "About 2 weeks ago." And I'm like, "Oh my God." And I realized, as much as it was, I guess, prestigious to be, press officer of the governor, it was really cutting into my family. In fact, if you remember, Mario Cuomo used to have a thing he called Family of New York. And he would always talk about the family of New York. Mm-hmm. But I shortened that to an acronym, PHONY, which meant it was, as long as it didn't involve your family.
Your family, exactly.
So I at some point approached them and said, I'd like to go back to agency land if I could, where life was a little more normal.
Yeah.
But it was interesting. It was just to see government working up close.
Sure.
Which is scary. Yeah. And one thing that I learned too, when I was a reporter at the Capitol in radio, we would have access to the majority leader in the Senate and the Assembly Speaker. They would have us come in and tell us what was going on and where they were with negotiations on this, that, and the other thing.
Sure.
And then you go down and interview the governor, and he'd tell you where he was in the negotiations. And then you would have rank and file legislators. I remember Neil Kelleher, who was the assemblyman from Rensselaer County, coming up to me going, "What do you hear? What are we doing? What's going on?
Really?
What are they telling you?" Yeah, so
because you knew more as the press than they did. Yeah,
we had more inside information than they did. You
well,
know?
that was always the criticism of the budget process in New York State
Yeah,
back
it
in
was
those days.
3 men in a
Three
room.
guys in a room doing
yeah,
it.
it was the governor, the assembly speaker, and the majority leader of the Senate. Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
So
Jeez.
it was a very eye-opening experience.
Sure.
I really enjoyed it. You know?
So where'd you go after that?
Where'd I go after that? Oh boy, I'm trying to think. Well, I went back to Channel 13 for a while.
Did you? Okay.
After I sold the radio station. And I'll tell you a very funny story very quickly. And to this day, he doesn't know it, and I probably shouldn't. You've heard the term fake news?
Yeah, somewhere.
Okay. Well, one night I had covered a murder arraignment at Colony Town Court, and Eric Hopple was the producer of the 11 o'clock news. And about 9:30, Eric comes to me and says, now the arraignment was at 6 o'clock. It was over by about 6:15 because they kicked it up to county court. And they shut off the lights, locked the door, and everybody went home. And I interviewed the attorney and the prosecutor and stuff. So back to the station, put my story together. And at 9:30, Eric comes to me and he goes, we're going to have you go back to Colony Town Court. I said, why? It's closed. It's dark. There's nothing there. Oh, no. We have to be live and local. We're sending you back over with the remote truck. And I said, but Eric, you're not going to see anything. It's dark. Even the parking lot's not lit up. It's dark. Yeah. It's closed. I'm going to be standing in the dark. Why can't I just do it out of the newsroom or on set? No. Got to be live local at Colony Town Court.
Well, you have to pay for that expensive equipment that they've been buying.
I'm ticked off about it. The truck operator who's got to drive all the way out to Colony and set everything up is not happy. The photographer who's got to go out and shoot the thing, he wants to go home.
Sure.
And we're all going to be stuck out in Colony. So we all pile in the truck, and we're pulling out onto North Pearl Street, where the station's located, or South Pearl Street, North Pearl Street. And I said, hey, guys, you know what? And they said, what? I said, right at the end of North Pearl Street here is a little...
dark parking lot?
Yeah, it's a little business complex down there, and the parking lot there is just as dark as it is in Colony. And they said, good, yes, right. So we went down and we set up 2 blocks down the street at the parking lot. Went on the air at 11 o'clock. It says Colony Town Court on it. I do my thing. We're back at the station like 5 after 11, and we go home. And to this day, Eric Hopple, I don't think knows that we just went down the street.
That
and
happened.
We actually did fake news.
Yeah. Boy, you get in trouble for that today.
Oh yeah. I probably just ruined my chances to go back to Channel 13 for a third time.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
But I mean, that was and of course, another guy I worked with was Ed Daig.
Oh yeah,
the infamous Ed Daig.
Great guy.
And if you remember, Ed had a fused vertebrae in his neck.
Yep.
If he went to talk to the person on the set,
whole body.
He had to move his whole body.
Yeah.
Because he couldn't really move his neck.
Right.
And so I was out one day on a news story, and somebody asked me. They said, "Hey, what's going on with Ed Daig? Why does he turn his whole body to talk to the person next to him when he's on TV?" I said, "Oh, you don't know?" And they said, "No, what?" And I said, "Have you ever been to Disney World, the Hall of Presidents, the animatronics, the presidents, the robots?" Yeah. I go, well, Ed Daig is a robot. I said they did it to cut costs, and they had Disney build this animatronic Anchorman, but they can't get the neck to work. So they have to turn the whole body. And the person's buying it. Really? I go, yeah, it's amazing. I mean, it's amazing, the technology, but it's actually a Disney animatronic that Channel 13 is investing. And so, I think I told that story more than once to a couple of people that asked me, and I would tell them Ed Daig was actually an animatronic robot. And I walk in the station one day in the newsroom, and I hear, "Jackson!" And I go over and I go, "Yeah, Ed, what's up? Are you telling people I'm an effing robot?" And I said, "Oh, well, it may have come up in conversation, So.
Oh man!
So many people in the Capital District probably, maybe to this day, still think Ed was a robot.
Well, you live by where did it go? I used to have a thing right up here, and maybe I put it away. Oh, by darned, it's gone. I have a quote up here, and I don't remember the quote exactly, but you epitomize this. Nowhere is it written that life was meant to be serious.
Oh, yeah.
And I live by those words. I have since my
absolutely.
first day on the radio. Actually, I have since my first laugh I got in class in school,
Yep.
I wasn't the class cut-up, but when I did speak, I usually got a giggle, and so I've just lived by that philosophy. Mostly in my later years because I watched Bob Hope and George Burns and all these guys live till their 90s or 100.
Oh,
and
yeah.
that's what I'm shooting
Yeah.
for. It's just laugh. It's just life. It's what it is.
Well, I have to say, everybody in my family, the men, were all dead by now. And I have outlived them all.
Yeah.
And I attribute a lot of it to just not taking life too seriously.
You can't.
I mean, you take serious what you have to.
Yes.
But I find humor in almost
Yes.
everything.
Yep.
And it has cost me a lot of jobs, I'm sure. My sense of humor has not always been appreciated. Truthfully, I'm sure it's more than once has bitten me in the butt. But
So obviously you're trying to hide something here because you still haven't told me what happened after you left government.
I left government and started the radio station. I filed for the license. And
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I thought this was after the radio station.
Yeah, I was in
sorry.
government for about 8.5 years.
Okay.
And
then did the radio
Had an
station.
opportunity to put this FM on the air.
Okay.
Like you had said earlier, it was everybody's dream who was in radio to own your own station.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. So
and-
after the radio station you sold.
Then I went back to Channel 13 for a second time. And then I left there and went into higher education.
Okay.
I went to Siena as director of communications.
Cool.
And they had a free tuition benefit. And my daughter was just about the time ready to go to college.
Nice.
And I said, Chris, if you go to Siena, you get a free tuition benefit. And she goes, no, I want to go away to school. And I couldn't talk her into it. And I got offered a job by the State University, the Rockefeller Institute of Government, which is kind of a government think tank. Why they hired me, they had a very low standard, apparently. But anyway, I aced the interview and went to work there. And then 20 minutes after I went to work for the State University, my daughter said, Dad, I've been accepted to Siena, and I'm going to go to Siena. And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
But luckily, the State University job paid twice what I had been making at Siena, so it just all went back to Siena anyway. Yeah. And then, believe it or not, I went down south. I went to with the State University of Georgia at their liberal arts university, which was in Milledgeville, which is in the middle of nowhere, literally in the middle. It was an hour to a Dunkin' Donuts in Macon. But while I was there, they opened up an NCE window, the FCC, which is non-commercial educational filing window.
Okay.
And I said, we're in the middle of nowhere. And they did have a student radio station, but it was 10 watts.
Yeah.
You could get it for about 2 blocks.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I said, I think we could get a full-service, full-power FM. And so I convinced the president to take a shot at it, and I called an engineer that I knew, and he did the engineering on it, and came back, and I filed it with the FCC, and got them a full-power Class C FM station in the middle of Georgia.
Yeah.
And then they were like, well, how are we going to build it? I said, there is a federal program that will give you grants. So I did a fairly substantial grant application.
There you go.
And got that approved.
Cool.
And got them, I think, $140,000, which was enough to build the station and get it on the air. So that was the second FM that I put on the air. And
yeah.
So that's
Good
still
for you.
going. Yeah.
Some legacy there.
Yeah. So every place I go, I start a station.
Build a
and
radio
then
station.
the FCC shows up. And
Starting with the very first bedroom station you had.
yeah, the bedroom station. So that's two. And then, as I say, I have a friend down in New York who's on a station. And I keep my hand in by doing bits with him.
That's
and
nice.
We just do stupid stuff.
Yeah,
Half the time I don't tell him what I'm going to do. I just call him up and
Well, he
gets
sure
me on
he's,
the air.
I'm sure he knows. I mean, he knows you obviously and trusts your sense of humor, and you know what the limits are, what you can get away with, and what you can't.
Well, not always, but they do have their hand on the bleep button at any moment.
Yes, well, thank you for that kind introduction, Floyd. This is Dexter Horschmidt reporting from downtown New Rochelle, and I'm pleased to be here to discuss breaking developments in our fair city. Unfortunately, right at the moment, there doesn't seem to be much of anything to report or comment on. I could tell you a little bit about New Rochelle. It has about 75,000 people in population. It is the 7th largest city in New York State, and it was settled in 1688 by French Protestants, the Huguenots. In 1775, George Washington stopped here to regroup his troops, and we're about 2 miles north of New York City. Possibly the most important thing I could tell you about New Rochelle is that it is one of the safest cities in New York State. But unfortunately today, just doesn't seem to be much worth commenting on here in downtown New Rochelle. So, Floyd, I'll send it back to you, and I'll let you know if anything comes up that we might want to come back here and discuss things going on. But as I say, at the moment, really not much happening here in New Rochelle. Okay, Floyd, back to you.
As I was telling you earlier before we started doing the interview, I called him up one day and I told him I had a business proposition.
And I'm talking like this. Yes, I have a business proposition I think you'd be interested in, sir.
And of course he's going, what's the matter with this guy's voice? You know? Yeah. And finally he goes, well, what's the business?
Well, sir, it's a helium factory. And to be completely honest with you, there is a leak in one of the pipes.
Just stupid stuff like that.
Yeah, hi. Looking for Floyd Vivito. Oh, yeah. Hey, this is Sam Starstone. How are you? Listen, I've been listening to your show for a while now. It's very good. But I think it would be a whole lot better if you told some jokes, some professional jokes. And that's what I do. I'm a professional joke writer. I just wrote the funniest joke I ever wrote. This is hysterical, and I thought maybe you might want to buy it from me and use it on your program. This joke just cracks me up. Just let me tell it to you real quick, okay? So a guy is going down the street. This is gonna crack you up. All right, let me start again. Okay, so this guy's going down the street. I can't catch my breath. Okay, all right, let me try again, okay? All right, I'm sorry. This is the best ever. This is just hysterical. Okay. So guys, go down the street. He's going down the street. I can't breathe. Look, I'm gonna have to call you back. I'll call you back.
But we just made. Another day, I told him I was a world famous author, and I had written a book on the importance of remaining calm, and that
I know what's coming. Go ahead.
Stress is a killer. Mm-hmm. You must remain calm at all times. Oh, hang on just a second, sir. You kids, get off my lawn and take your dog with you.
Yeah, perfect.
I'm terribly sorry. As I say, stress is a terrible thing. Hang on just a second. Just jiggle the handle. Don't call a plumber. Jiggle the handle on the toilet, and like that. And I'm sorry, so you can see that coming, I'm sure.
Yeah, I saw that coming.
Yeah,
yes,
but, that's the kind of...
Well, speaking of world-famous authors, boy, you set it up for me just perfectly here.
Well, I'm just trying to lead into it.
There you go. You're just waiting for the time that you can plug, okay? Because I'm going to let you plug your book, and then I'm going to mention mine. But I'm just so excited about what you're about to embark on here. You're actually getting professionally published about something that has absolutely nothing pretty much to do with broadcasting.
Well, that's true.
So how did this come about?
It's about the Titanic.
Yeah.
And it is a compilation of all of the things that came together to doom this ship. In fact, the name of the book is Why the Titanic Was Doomed. It's being published by a British publisher, Pen and Sword. And what happened was I was thinking to myself, I've seen bits and pieces of the reasons why the Titanic sunk. But I've never seen all of these pieces in one place.
Yeah.
So that was the tact I took in writing it.
How long ago did you start the project?
3 or 4 years ago, probably, bits and pieces. And then finally I just sat down and started writing it.
Good.
And I probably spent better part of a year, working on it. And my friend Floyd, the guy who has a radio show in New York, enjoys history. And I told him about it, that I was trying to work on this book. And he goes, well, can you send it to me? So I sent him a draft. And he called me like 2 days later and he goes, this is great. I couldn't put it down. He goes,
nice.
He goes, the way you wrote it, even if you don't have technical knowledge, you explained it, and you really had to see if you can find a publisher.
Nice.
And I said, wow, I appreciate that. And, you really think it's that good? And he goes, oh yeah, I really enjoyed it. So I cleaned it up a little bit and I sent it to a publisher in Britain who had done similar kinds of books on history and maritime and whatnot.
Smart. Yeah.
And all I did was a quick Google search to see who had done Titanic books.
Yeah.
So I sent it to him on a Wednesday night. I get up Thursday morning. I go in. I'm literally sitting on the throne, looking at my phone, going through emails, and I see an email back from this publisher in Britain saying, love the book, want to publish it.
Wow.
And I'm expecting, thousands of rejection letters.
Talk to Larry Mossy.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know if you've read his book yet, but it took him forever to realize that he had to self-publish because he just got turned down so many times by publishing houses.
I figured they're going to go, another Titanic book?
Yeah, exactly.
But the tact I had taken and the focus I had given to it, they were like, hey, this is great.
Yeah.
So I finished it up. I added some to it, some additional sections and whatnot to kind of flesh it out a little bit more. And, we went through a couple of revisions and drafts. And it's nice because they had sent me a contract and I wanted to keep the film and TV rights. They wanted all the rights. It's standard in publishing. They want everything.
Sure.
But I rewrote the contract and kept the film and TV rights. Not that anybody will want to make a film or TV, but you never know. Maybe Discovery Channel or something,
You never know. Absolutely.
First right of refusal on and narrating the audio book, things like that. And I also upped all the commission rates a little bit. Not a lot, but a little bit. And they
went with it.
They didn't.
Well, that's terrific.
They didn't kick it back at all. I was like, wow.
Smart move, Brian. Very nice.
So it's time to come out in April 2022,
right? Which is the month that it
it's
sank.
the 110th anniversary of the sinking.
Yeah,
and it was like, wow. I was, I for me to nail a publisher the first time out, I thought was
almost any author will tell you it's just unheard of.
But I have to tell you, I am very fortunate because I was a horrible English student. I couldn't spell to save my life.
Wow.
If you ask
me, you went into news.
If you ask me to this day to diagram a sentence or pick out the adverb, I'd be like,
oh, sure.
You got me.
Well, same here. Yeah.
Luckily, what saved me, and in broadcasting too, in news, was I grew up in an area of northern New Jersey where people spoke proper English.
There you go. Yeah.
And so...
Yeah.
Did it sound right to my ear?
Yes.
And so basically I write for the ear.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I did that when I got to broadcasting.
Yep.
And spell check, of course, has saved me on the spelling. I've gotten really pretty good at spelling.
Thanks to spell check.
I know the difference between two, and two now, and there, and there. So this is not to denigrate anybody from Brooklyn or Queens, but if I had grown up there, I'd probably be doing the news like, them guys in the Congress today did legislation to help the Utes,
Exactly. Well, I credit my mother.
Yeah.
She would correct me growing up. She would correct my grammar.
Yeah.
She was just a stickler for it. And no matter how upset I seemed to get at the time. Okay, Mom, I really do credit her. That. And I took broadcast journalism in college. The one year I went, I took a BJ course, and I had a very good professor. He was just excellent at it. And again, he taught us to write for the ear because this was broadcast.
Yeah.
And so that's the more positive reviews I've had from friends of mine, and that's about all who's read my book, are friends of mine that said, you write like you sound, you write like you talk. And I said, well, thank you. That's a compliment because that's how I was taught.
And that's exactly, like I say, luckily I did the same thing. I went to college for journalism and communications.
Yeah.
And, but growing up with people who spoke proper English saved me because, like I say,
there you go.
I was I hated reading. I hated book reports.
I didn't read a whole book all the way through until I was in college.
In fact,
that was The Godfather by Mario Cuomo, by Mario Puzo. And up until then, all the reading assignments I had back in junior and senior high school, I never read any of those.
Well, the first book I ever read cover to cover was A Night to Remember, which was about the Titanic.
I've got it right here.
Do you?
I do.
I had to do a book report, and I looked through all the books that were available, and that's the one that kind of hooked me, and I couldn't put it down. So that's what kind of got me started on the Titanic, and that was in 7th grade. So Walter Lord's A Night to Remember.
Yeah. I'm about 3/4 of the way through it, and I put it down for something else. I don't remember what.
And that really was the impetus of my getting hooked on the Titanic. But it's interesting. One day I was sitting in the governor's office, and I was writing a speech for Mario Cuomo. And in the middle of writing it, I just stopped and went, how the hell did this happen? I'm the world's worst English student, and I'm writing a speech for the governor of New York.
Yeah.
And I turned it into him, and he goes, I like it. It's my style. You've copied my style. And I was like, wow.
Nice.
Because don't ask me to pick out an adverb in there because I have no idea what that would be, or to diagram it because or A before E be except after Z or whatever those rules were.
So plug it again. What's the name of the book?
The book is called what is the name of the book? Oh, it's Why the Titanic Was Doomed.
Okay.
And there's like a little subtitle, Disaster of Circumstance. And what I've done is pulled together all the circumstances that
that made it.
So
possible.
if you look at it, I've worked for a dozen radio stations, a TV station, the governor, state agencies, higher education, and now I've written a book. And you know what this all comes down to?
No.
I can't hold a job, apparently. I just keep going from thing to thing to thing.
That's true. That's true. But this is true. I'm just so thrilled for this book because mine, as I mentioned, is self-published. Called I'll Have to Ask My Mom, because that's how my radio career started at 16. I needed a ride. So when they said, do you want to work? I said, I'll have to ask my mom. That came to me. I woke up one morning and the title was there. I'd been working on the book for months, and all of a sudden the title just came to me. I'll Have to Ask My Mom. So, and that's available through, what's that? Amazon, I think is what it's called. Yes. And Audible. I did the audiobook. And you're going to do the audiobook of yours as well, right?
That's the plan.
Cool.
Excellent. So I'm looking forward to it.
Excellent.
Yeah. So, and now I've, this process of getting this one published was so easy.
There you go.
That I'm now focused on doing a second book, which is about a double agent in World War II that most people that I talk to have never heard of the guy.
Okay, so it is fact-based.
Yeah,
okay,
it's completely fact-based. And this guy was a double agent, and he's the only guy who got the Iron Cross from Hitler and the MBE from the British.
Whoa.
Because he was working for the British, but Hitler thought he was working for him.
Wow.
And
sounds interesting.
The guy was amazing.
You should hang on to the film and TV rights for that one, too.
I hope to do that as well. And the thing is, they've just released a lot of previously classified documents. So even though there's been some stuff written about this guy, there's now some new information that's available that's been declassified. So
Neat.
I'm hoping that'll be kind of the hook of being able to do the latest
Good for you.
thing on it. So
Well, Bryan, this has been delightful, and I'm thrilled for your next chapter. Pardon the pun. With the book coming out, but it seems to me like it all kind of happened in the way it's supposed to. But of course, you never would have, in your wildest dreams, guessed that this is where it would.
I think
lead.
part of it is I get bored easily. So
Well, there you go.
I
Sure.
need to, what can I do that'll hold my interest? So I think now the next step is I'm ready to go back to Channel 13 for the third trip.
Yeah. Well, the way they've been changing, staff over there's probably an opening next week.
I'll leave you at least with this story. Back when broadcasting was more fun and it wasn't so corporate based.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there are two stories at Channel 13. One was the station was originally owned by a guy named Sunderling. I can't think of his first name, but
I do remember that.
Little old guy, and he was he probably made his money by hanging on to what he had because he wasn't known for big budgets and spending a lot of money.
Yeah.
And this is back, of course, when the station was Waste, W-A-S-T. And the famous story was he came into a budget meeting. He would come up once a year. Egmont Sunderling was his name. He would come to the station once a year for the budget meeting. And he's going down the list, and he's like, all right, he goes, what is this over here? Film. What is the film for? Film, $25,000. What are you doing with the film? Well, this is before videotape. We go out and we film stories for the news. And like what? If there's a fire, we would go out and we would take pictures of the fire and we put it on the news. Yeah, and then what do you do with it? Well, we put it in the library, the archives. Well, you don't use it again? Well, no, not usually. Why wouldn't you use it again? Well, because, flames is flames. And the only way they got him to finally agree to buy more film was the Channel 11 in New York had been running old film footage and saying it was new.
Yeah.
And the FCC had fined them.
Sure.
So,
you mentioned that to him.
When you mentioned that, if we do that, we're going to get fined $100,000. So it'd probably be better to spend $25 on new film. Right. And he finally broke down and said, all right, but
flames
is flames.
Oh, that's
And
great.
then the other one was John Wolfe was the weather guy for
I remember John.
years and years.
Yep.
And long before all the computer graphics,
exactly, yeah.
He had these painted metal boards that were on sliders. Mm-hmm. You had the Nation, you had New York State, and then you had the Capital District.
Right.
And he would slide them on these rollers, and the boards are painted metal, and then the H's and L's, the little H's and L's,
were magnetic.
They would stick on the board, and you could move them around.
Yeah.
So we did a couple of things with that. One night we got a kid's refrigerator magnet alphabet, and we just put letters all over the second board. The first board was fine.
Yeah, when he first signed on.
As soon as he got off at the 6 o'clock news, he would set it up for the 11.
Sure. Yeah.
And then he would go over to Charlie Weaver's and sit at the bar and get lit. In fact, I replaced the on-the-air sign in the studio when he would come back from Charlie Weaver's with no open flame. So he didn't burst into flames. But John gets on the air and he slides the first board, and there's just there's
letters
50
everywhere.
F's, L's, G's all over the map. I mean, it just makes no sense at all.
And this is live.
And this is live television.
Oh,
and of course, he just stands there for about 20 seconds and looks at it, trying to figure out what the hell's going on. And then the other thing we did to the poor guy was we nailed the first board we let slide. The second board we nailed in place.
Oh, jeez.
So he couldn't slide it to get to the Capital District.
You guys.
And he got into an argument with it, and he's trying to slide it, and he's trying to force it, and the whole thing just broke apart on the air. I mean, the wood splintered, and the thing fell on the floor, and he's just like looking at it.
Oh, man.
And the only other story I'll tell you, remember Betty and Moo?
We could be here all day. Yes, I do remember Betty and Moo.
Okay, Betty and Moo.
The weather dog. Yeah.
She would bring the dog out, this poor lifeless dog. And this is long before they did the local news drop-ins. I think she actually bought the time and then sold it to local advertisers.
Okay.
But she would come out and she would hold up pictures that kids had sent her, refrigerator art, that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And she would do her little 5-minute drop-in during the morning network show.
Right.
So I got in early one day, and I had a can of, I think it was Hart's Mountain Doggy Off. It was this spray to keep dogs off furniture. Oh, jeez. And I sprayed the top of the table that she would set the dog on. It said Moo on the front. So, and of course, she didn't really rehearse. She just comes prancing into Studio B, plops the dog down. Now, this dog was, you'd think it was comatose most of the time. She plops the dog down. The dog goes, wow! And for the next 5 minutes, Betty is wrestling with the dog, going, Moo is very excited today. And the dog's going, argh! And of course, the guys in the control room are falling out of the chairs. I mean, it was, and I never did let on what we had done, spraying the countertop with Hart's Mountain Doggy Off.
Remind me never to go on the air on a live mic with you anywhere in the county. I'll tell you, those are great stories.
But
Thank
we did
you.
have a lot of fun.
Thank you. Absolutely. And thank goodness. And you're still alive to talk about it.
So,
and you still have friends. That's nice, too.
Thanks for tuning in, folks. This was part 1. Part 2 will be at some future date, and I'll tell you the rest of my stories.
There you go.
Everything from electrocuting a FCC inspector to...
yeah, I mean, how do you top those stories?
Bringing a dog out of a coma, I mean, A to Z.
Oh, Bryan, thanks again. I really appreciate it.
Well, I enjoyed it, too.
Always fun to talk with you.
And it's...
We'll talk again soon.
I certainly hope so.
Take care.
Thank you.
Radio Split Ranch.
Don't say I didn't warn you. A few minutes with Bryan inevitably makes your day better. And he's put smiles on a lot of faces over his 50-plus years in broadcasting and public service. We counted it up. He made stops at 14 different radio and TV stations, which, if you're keeping count, and why wouldn't you be, brings our total call letter count in 7 interviews so far to 79 stations. How many more can we add after our next interview is anyone's guess, since I'm not sure who yet will be our next month's visitor, but we'll find out. I guess you'll just have to listen and have your calculator ready. If you're enjoying this time traveling that we're doing, would you take a moment to comment and sign up to follow Radio Split Ranch on your favorite service? We appreciate it. It helps spread the word about the fun we're having and may convince my mother that my dropping out of college after just 1 year wasn't for naught. Before we go, try to enjoy our closing air check coming up from my first pass through WTRY in Troy, New York, back on May 20th, 1989. I made a note on the CD case that this is a fun air check, so we'll let you decide. Hope you'll listen again next month for another conversation from the Radio Split Ranch. In the meantime, don't cry because it's over. Smile because it happened.
This is the United Stations Radio Network. The WTRY Weather Watch forecast, according to TV 13 meteorologist Bob Gavachik, partly sunny, breezy, warm today. Expect a high around 89. Partly cloudy, mild tonight, low 57. Mix of sun and clouds tomorrow with a chance of a brief shower or thunderstorm and a high of 85. Currently, sunshine, 58 degrees at Weather Watch 98 WTRY.
WTRY, the oldie station.
Get your doolangs out.
Doolang, doolang, doolang.
The oldie station, 98 WTRY. Just give me some kind of sign. Some kind of sign, girl, that you love me. Now, just turn the radio off. I don't think that's it. 8 minutes after 6 o'clock, 6:08. A Saturday morning with Chris and 58 degrees are greeting you this morning. How are you doing? Glad to have you along. Got Elvis coming up later on this hour. Pet Clark, Shirelles, Beach Boys, Bread, Neil Diamond, and more. Hope you'll stick around for it because a lot is going on this day, which happens to be the 20th of May, 89, but don't go by the weather forecast. We're going up to 89 today. You believe that? At 98 WTRY, where this Wednesday night, it'll be time for the next WTRY Fender Bender Oldies Party. John Gabriel's there this week at Fender's at the Turf for all your favorite dancing oldies. And this week, be there for the Yukon Jack Bartenders Competition and Party. We'll have a ton of prizes to give away, and bartenders from all over the area will be showing off their stuff. It's going to happen next Wednesday. That's what it is. The next WTRY Fender Bender Oldies Party, 8 to 11 at Fender's Oldies Club, inside the Holiday Inn Turf on Wolf Road. Yesterday's greatest hits are on the oldie station, 98 WTRY. 6:13, a Saturday. Good morning. What are you doing up so early? Go back to bed. Here's Johnny Mathis. 98 WTRY. 6:19 a Saturday morning with Chris. I'm waking up. Hope you haven't been sleeping in the subway. Here's Pet Clark.
You wander around,
The only station, 98 WTRY. And don't sleep in the subway, darling. No, you can come to my place if you want. Hey, doors always open. 22 minutes after 6. 6:22. I'm just not going to tell you my address. 58 degrees. And we have TV13 meteorologist Bob Kovacic's forecast coming up momentarily. Hope you'll stick around for that. And then another WTRY Gold Rush. Got at least 6 great oldies in a row coming up.
WTRY.
We try harder to make it easier.
6:24, a Saturday morning with Chris, standing by with Glenn Travis Campbell coming up next. It's 20, did we say 24 after 6? We did. Let's read the WTRY Weather Watch forecast. According to TV13 meteorologist Bob Kovacic, partly sunny, breezy, and warm today. And get this, 89. Once again, will be a beautiful one. Partly sunny. Well, make it partly cloudy because the sun will be gone, and mild this evening, low 57. You know, when I wake up in a few minutes, this show is really going to take off. A mix of sun and clouds tomorrow. There's a chance of a brief shower or thunderstorm, high 85. I got too much sleep last night. Right now, 58 degrees and sunshine at Weather Watch 98 WTRY.
WTRY's Gold Rush means more oldies back to back. The oldie station, WTRY.
The oldie station 98 WTRY with the Penguins actually predating the rock and roll era, 1954. And the song is still one of the most popular requests we get today. Here are the Shirelles on TRY. The original oldie station, 98 WTRY. Hey, when we say 6 in a row, a gold rush, we mean 6 in a row. The music never stops at 98 WTRY. 20 minutes shy of 7 o'clock, 58 degrees. Expect a sunny, breezy, warm one today, 89. And I'm getting a lot of pressure at home to open up the pool. But hey, don't be fooled by this, okay? I mean, I haven't put the snowblower away yet. I'm just not too sure here. 98 WTRY in a current affair has your chance to win a Sony Dream Machine and qualify to win your share of $98,000 in cash and prizes, including a 2-week trip to Hawaii. All you have to do is watch A Current Affair on WTEN Channel 10. Then listen to Tom Williams, 8:20 every morning, Monday through Friday on WTRY, the oldie station.
Attention.
Rascals on 98 WTRY, playing non-stop solid gold. 15 shy of 7 o'clock, 6:45, a Saturday with Chris and the Drifters.
They say
The original oldie station, 98 WTRY. Brad, David Gates and the gang from 1971. Everything I own, of course, is yours. 9 before 7 o'clock, at least between 6 and 10 on Saturday mornings. 58 degrees, sunshine, and a beauty is dawning. 89 is what our expected high will be today. And Bob Kovacic's full weather forecast is just moments away at 98 WTRY. Looking for something to do this weekend? Here's something for a great cause. The first annual Walk for AIDS is happening starting at 10 o'clock this morning at Washington Park off Madison, going to the Corning Preserve. About a 5-mile walk altogether, and you can give me a call here. We'll give you the numbers to call, 476-WTRY. That's a reminder from the original oldie station, 98 WTRY.
Card that pays you back.
The WTRY Weather Watch forecast, according to TV13 meteorologist Bob Kovacic. Partly sunny, breezy, warm today, high 89. Partly cloudy, mild overnight, low about 57. Then a mix of sun and clouds tomorrow. Chance of a brief shower or a thunderstorm, which is why my son has his soccer game on Sunday, you see, so we can have rain. High around 85. Right now, sunshine, 58 at Weather Watch 98 WTRY.
The oldie station, 98 WTRY.
Brooklyn's Neil Diamond on the oldie station, 98 WTRY from back in 1967. Let's step up a few years from that. Redbone is here to take us to Lieutenant News at 7 o'clock. Come on, get your love.
WTRY for the Capital District.
Chris Warren, WTRY, the oldie station.
Good morning, 7 minutes after 7 o'clock. You know, they always cover the President's Golf Match, never talk about Barbara's bridge game. I think we should have that.
Never felt like I love you.
98 WTRY, the original oldie station. Diana Ross and the Supremes, Come See About Me, 1966, solid gold. It's 12 minutes after 7. 7:12 Saturday morning with Chris later on this hour. A few minutes from now, we'll let you in on when exactly to be listening for the WTRY Money Card Contest. We'll be reaching into the Money Card mailbag 3 times today. We'll have those hours for you coming up in just a few, as we will Peter and Gordon, Love and Spoonful, Marvin Gaye, Beatles, Buckingham's, Beach Boys, and more. Don't go away from 98 WTRY. Getting together with A Current Affair Affair for your chance to win a Sony Dream machine and, of course, qualify to win your share of $98,000 in cash and prizes, including, how about a 2-week trip to Hawaii? Sounds good to me. All you have to do is watch A Current Affair on WTEN Channel 10 and listen to Tom Williams. He's here every morning, Monday through Friday from around 8:20 or so. He's going to do this right here on the oldie station, 98 WTRY.
The date, Sunday, May 21st. The place, Knickerbocker Field in Troy. The site of the 1989 Cow Chip Fundraiser. Take the family and show your support for the Troy Family YMCA this Sunday starting at noon. You can smell the excitement as 3 cows have it out, I mean really have it out, on the field of battle. It's cow versus cow at Knickerbocker Field with free admission, plus a craft fair, and the main event, 3 cows doing what they do best. It's all to benefit the Troy Family YMCA this Sunday starting at noon. Presented by Grimm Building Materials Company and the Troy Family YMCA. For more information, call 272-5900. 272-5900. It all goes down this Sunday. Knickerbocker Field in Troy. The 1989 Cow Chip Fundraiser. You won't believe how it comes out.
Your favorite oldies sound best on the Capital District's original oldie station, 98 WTRY. 7:18 with Chris. Stay tuned. Martial law has been declared here in the studio. That means you're going to get what you deserve. All the best oldies. The Ronettes. Baby, I love you. The oldie station, 98 WTRY. Baby, I love you. It's true, I do. It's 20 minutes after 7 o'clock. It is a Saturday morning, but you knew that. And I'm Chris, in case you didn't know that. We have word that Beauty and the Beast fans are going to be terribly disappointed. Yes, turns out that CBS has not put Beauty and the Beast on the fall TV schedule. And believe me, they're locking their doors over at CBS. Also not coming back next year, it says here, The Equalizer and Kate and Allie. Just if they're your favorites, what can we tell you? This is what I'm reading. It's right here in black and almost white here. 5 new dramas and 3 comedies coming up on CBS this fall, including the return of Dr. Kildare. Not as Dr. Kildare, but Richard Chamberlain is coming back to his first series since the 60s, and he'll play another doctor, yes, in the Hawaiian. Might have something to do with the fact the guy lives in Hawaii. What do you think? Yeah?
It's time, shouldn't you?
Oh, I certainly hope so. The WTRY Weather Watch forecast, according to TV13 meteorologist Bob Kovacic. Partly sunny, breezy, warm today. It sounds like a day in July. High around 89. Partly cloudy, mild tonight, low 57. Then there's a mix of sun and clouds expected for tomorrow. Chance of a brief shower or thunderstorm. Looks like the weekend's going to get pretty good here still. 85 right now, or tomorrow, I should say, for Sunday. And we'll expect as much sunshine as possible. We got clear blue sunny skies now. 60 degrees at Weather Watch 98 WTRY.
The oldie station, 98 DRY.
The oldie station, 98 WTRY. Right now, we're going to give you today's clues as to when we're going to reach into the WTRY money card mailbag and give away your share of $10,000. Wouldn't that be great if you could pick up your share? All right. Sometime today between 8 and 9, also between 1 and 2 this afternoon, and between 5 and 6 later this afternoon, you could win that $98 in cash. If you've sent us your WTRY money card, be listening, and if you hear your name, call us back within 30 minutes. You could win your share of $10,000 in cash from the oldie station, 98 WTRY. Ain't nothing peculiar about it. Here's Marvin Gaye. He takes us to Lutiny News at 7:30 this morning. We'll be back till 10.
For the Capital District.
Chris Warren, WTRY, the oldie station.
Good morning, 24 shy of 8 o'clock, and one of the prettiest songs written by Lennon and McCartney, done for you from 1964 by the Beatles, and I Love Her.
I give her.
The oldie station, 98 WTRY, can see it now. Men searching the world for ugly women. I can see it. Jimmy Soul on the oldie station, 60 degrees and sunshine as we head toward a high near 90 today. What a day. It's more like a mid-July day than mid-May, but we do have the 20th of May underway. Chris on your radio, hanging from your earlobe till 10 o'clock this morning. Still to come this hour, Buckingham's Beach Boys, Fifth Dimension. We'll squeeze a lot in before 8 o'clock when Lou Tinney pops back in here again. We also have Bob Kovacic's weather forecast moments away as well at 98 WTRY, the original oldie station, where we're celebrating the 100th anniversary of the jukebox by giving you a chance to win your very own Wurlitzer. We're going to even throw the records in. Isn't this great? We're going to complete with records. Simply listen to John Gabriel weekdays, 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. for an oldies trivia question. Now, the first correct caller will score a pair of Canada Dry American Bandstand t-shirts and immediately qualify to win that Wurlitzer. If you'd like some help with the answers, all you have to do is stop by the Canada Dry Ginger Ale Rock Your Memory display at area Bond Fair stores. They used to be the convenient food marts, and pick up an answer card. Soon you could be rocking to oldies, played on your very own Wurlitzer jukebox only from the Oldie Station 98 WTRY.
It began.
The Oldie Station 98 WTRY playing solid gold back to back. 13 and a half before 8 o'clock with Chris and the Buckingham. The Oldie Station 98 WTRY, 7 top 10 songs, 2 number ones, including Aquarius, Let the Sunshine In, and that one right there, Wedding Bell Blues, went to number 1 back in 1969. My first year in radio, people would call up and request Bill. Would you play Bill, please? Actually, it's called the Wedding Bell Blues, but you probably figured that out by now. 8 before 8 o'clock at Time Natural. How are you this Saturday morning? Sunshine, 60 degrees greet you this morning, as does yours truly, Chris Warren. We have the full Bob Kovacic weather forecast next.
The most prescribed allergy medication ever.
Gesundheit. The WTRY Weather Watch forecast, according to TV13 meteorologist, he said, not very well, Bob Kovacic, calling for a partly sunny, breezy, warm one. Unbelievable today. High near 90 again. This will be the third day in a row. Partly cloudy, mild tonight, low 57. A mix of sun and clouds tomorrow. Chance of a brief afternoon shower or thunderstorm and a high again of 85. Right now, sunshine and 60 at Weather Watch 98 WTRY.
The Oldie Station 98 WTRY.
Beach Boys on 98 WTRY. Wouldn't it be nice if we could listen to the Raiders right now? That sounds good to me.
A service of WTRY for the Capital District.
Chris Warren, WTRY, the Oldie Station.
It's Twoo. It's Chris until 10 o'clock this morning. How you doing? Here are the Skyliners. Since I don't have you. Me? Really? Oh, that's not nice. 12 minutes after 8 o'clock at 98 WTRY, the Oldie Station. How are you doing this Saturday morning? What a beautiful day to wake up to. Going to be over 60 degrees next time we check the temperature, I'm sure, as we head toward a high around 89 today. Not too bad at all. And this hour, going to make you even happier. Later this hour, going into the WTRY money card mailbag. Going to go right in there and you're going to draw out a name, and perhaps you'll win $98 in cash. So if you've sent your WTRY money card in to us, be listening. We might announce your name later this hour. And then if you call us back within 30 minutes, you win the cash. Simple as that. From the Oldie Station 98 WTRY.
It began yesterday.
98 WTRY with all your favorite oldies. 98 WTRY, the Oldie Station, the original one, in fact. The station you grew up with. 19 minutes after 8 o'clock, 8:19, Saturday morning with Chris. And, of course, Johnny Burnett, 1960. And you're 16. If you are, you don't remember any of this stuff, do you? Well, we're having a good time with it anyway. We're glad to have you along this Saturday morning. Chris in your ear till 10, checking out some of the highlights in today's history. 50 years ago today, count them, May 20th, 1939, regular transatlantic air service began as a Pan American Airways plane, the Yankee Clipper, took off from Port Washington, New York, bound for Europe. We understand the luggage still has not arrived. In 1830, on this date, the first railroad timetable was published in the newspaper The Baltimore American. See, now that was the mistake right there. If you didn't publish the timetable, trains wouldn't be late. You see, that's how that works. 1926, inventor Thomas Edison expressed the view that Americans would prefer silent movies over talking pictures. Yes, on this date he said that. Obviously, he never saw the hit movie Earthquake in Sense-Around, right? Some more flying history. A lot of flying history on this date in history. 1927, Charles Lindbergh took off from Roosevelt Field in Long Island, New York. And he was aboard the Spirit of St. Louis, of course, on his historic solo journey to France. And his luggage still has not arrived. And on 1932, on this date, Amelia Earhart took off from Newfoundland for Ireland to become the first woman to fly solo across the Atlantic. And, yeah, you guessed it, lost her cosmetic case.
You never saw.
That's what Campbell soups are. Good.
Oh, hi there. Wait a second. I want to do this right. I'm not going to be able to do it right. Well, anyway, we're going to do something here, but it's too late to do that because we're going to do the weather forecast from WTRY TV 13. Meteorologist Bob Kovacic calls for a partly sunny, breezy, warm day today. High around 89. Partly cloudy, mild tonight, low 57. There's a mix of sun and clouds expected for tomorrow and a chance of a brief shower or thunderstorm, perhaps, high around 85. Right now, sunshine, and it's got to be better than 60. We'll check that out for you at Weather Watch 98 WTRY.
Great 98 WTRY. Golden. Natural woman.
Oh, Aretha. You make me feel unnatural, I want to tell you. Here's Aretha Franklin. And we're going back a few for that one, 1967. We won't say how many years ago that is or how old any of us were at the time. 26 minutes after 8 o'clock at 98 WTRY. Where it's time right now to reach into our WTRY money card mailbag and draw the name of another lucky person to win $98 in cash. I have the name of Patty Giuliano, I believe it is, of Troy, New York, in my hand here. Patty Giuliano of Troy, you have 30 minutes to call me back at 476-WTRY and win $98 in cash. From the oldie station, 98 WTRY. Give us a call. We'll make you a winner. We'll put you on the radio and everything, and your friends will say, I heard you on the radio. We're going to listen to Lou Tinney next after White Plains. My Baby Loves Lovin' from 1970. You got it. On the oldie station, TRY.
This is Lou Tinney for Newswatch 98, a service of WTRY for the Capital District.
Hey, Lou, do you like winners, Lou?
I love a winner.
You love winners? Well,
yeah.
I like them too, and I don't like to hesitate. When we get a winner, I want to talk to the person, okay?
All right.
So we got one right here. Let's go to the telephone. 98 WTRY. Hi, what's your name?
Patty Giuliano.
And Patty, where are you calling from?
From Troy.
And you just heard your name on the radio, didn't you?
Yeah.
Well, congratulations. Just won yourself $98 in cash with the WTRY money card.
Thank you.
How simple was that?
That was.
What a great way to spend a day, huh?
Yeah.
You got plans for that money?
Oh, just shopping.
Oh, hey, I'm a shopper too.
Right.
You know? Yeah, actually, I'm a buyer. I don't shop. I just buy.
Right.
Well, congratulations, and what radio station that you listen to specializes in the oldies?
WTRY.
The oldies station, 98 WTRY, 18 and a half before 9 o'clock. For the Four Seasons, and before that, the Four Tops. And I'm just one. I'm Chris Warren. We're here till 10 o'clock this morning. 64 and sunshine, heading toward a high of around 90 today. Not too shabby. I could take that. Don't forget, coming up Monday at noontime, John Gabriel's going to count down the top 10 hits for May 22nd, 1967. Good year. The WTRY Hall of Fame, that's what it's called. And if you're from the class of 67, be listening. Your chance to win a video membership at Hippos at Stuyvesant Plaza could be happening then. And you'll also be eligible for our weekly drawing to win the Super Shop and Save Oldies Library, 101 legendary hits on 14 cassettes. How do I get in this contest? That's the WTRY Hall of Fame, weekdays on the lunch hour. From the original oldie station, 98 WTRY. I got to get back to my Apple. The date. The oldie station is 98 WTRY. Tell your friends.
I'm a loser.
From Beatles 65, that's the Beatles from 1965. I'm a loser. 11 before 9 o'clock, 11 shy of 9. Or if you look at your clock upside down, it's 8:51. Sunshine and 64 degrees. A full Bob Kovacic weather forecast coming up momentarily. Summertime 1970. Remember it well. Holding on tighter and tighter with Alive and Kicking. 8 before 9 o'clock. Saturday morning with Chris, and it all ends tomorrow night. Miami Vice goes off the air tomorrow night, a special 2-hour episode. They're keeping the plot a secret, but considering who the show's executive producer is, it probably will go out with some sort of bang. When Michael Mann ended his Crime Story series, you might remember a couple seasons back, he blew up the bad guys with an atomic bomb. I mean, how do you top that with Miami Vice? Maybe, I got it, maybe they could have Sonny Crockett go bald. What a finish, huh? 98 WTRY going back in time with the Vogues. Next, in fact, we're going back to 5 o'clock to be exact. Hang in. WTRY Weather Watch forecast. According to TV 13 meteorologist Bob Kovacic, partly sunny, breezy, warm today. High 89. Yeah, 89. It's May 20th. You got it. Partly cloudy, mild tonight. Low about 57. Just perfect sleeping weather. Mix of sun and clouds tomorrow. Chance of a brief shower or thunderstorm. Just kind of mess up your picnic a little bit, but not too bad. High around 85. Right now, 64 and sunshine. At Weather Watch 98 WTRY.
98 WTRY.
It's a 5 o'clock world. Vogues, 1966. On the oldie station, 98 WTRY. 3 shy of 9 o'clock. Lou Tinney News is just 3 minutes from right this very moment. From about 10 feet from where I stand, in fact. On the oldie station, 98 WTRY. Here's David Ruffin. My whole world ended.
For the Capital District.
Chris Warren, WTRY. the oldies station.
Good morning. Now, everybody whose wife is putting them to work in the yard today, raise your hand. That's what I thought, yeah. Here's Tommy James.
Such as I.
The original oldie station, 98 WTRY, 1958 for the king and a fool such as I. There is one now and then, usually every Saturday, 6 to 10 a.m. That's where we are right now. Today, 11 minutes after 9 o'clock, 68 and sunshine. What an hour we've got coming up, including music from the Beach Boys, Brian Hyland, Bobby Vinton, The Ventures, and B.J. Thomas is coming up next at 98 WTRY, where tonight it's Dick Bartley's original rock and roll oldies show. Join us for all the great hits from the golden age of Top 40 by your request. This week, the Rock and Roll Oldies Show spotlights the hits and headlines from the year 1962. It's Dick Bartley's original rock and roll oldies show. Happens tonight at 7 on the original oldie station, 98 WTRY.
Attention.
98 WTRY with your favorites from the 50s, 60s, and 70s. 98 WTRY, I'm sorry, the Chinese pulled the plug on our transmitter there for a second. 98 WTRY, 21 minutes after 9 o'clock. Actually, I'm on the phone with somebody that's trying to get me to name a song, and isn't that terrible? I've been playing this stuff for 20 years. I know all this stuff. He sings me a song, and I can't think of the name of it. And it'll come to me sometime in my sleep tonight. 9:21, a Saturday morning with Chris, 68 on the outside, sunshine, and the full Bob Kovacic weather forecast is coming up next at 98 WTRY, where we are, of course, going to cruise America tomorrow with Cousin Brucey. On the show this week, Cousin Brucey talks with Felix Cavalieri of the Rascals, and actor Ron Howard will talk about his days in Mayberry on the Andy Griffith Show. Great memories and the best music ever made, of course. Cruising America with Cousin Brucey tomorrow morning, 10 o'clock on the oldie station, 98 WTRY.
It began yesterday. And growing.
The WTRY Weather Watch forecast, according to TV 13 meteorologist Bob Kovacic. A partly sunny, breezy, warm one expected today, kind of like a mid-July day, high around 90. Partly cloudy, mild tonight, low 57. A mix of sun and clouds expected for Sunday with a chance of a brief shower or a thunderstorm and a high of 85. Right now, sunshine, 68 at Weather Watch 98 WTRY.
The oldie station, 98 TRY.
The oldie station, 98 WTRY. A Saturday with Chris, and morning has broken, and going to get a broom right now and clean it up. I'm sorry. Well, that was bad. I'm going back to bed.
Morning has...
A service of WTRY for the Capital District.
Chris Warren, WTRY, the oldie station.
Good morning. Our appropriate song of the morning is Brian Hyland, Sealed with a Kiss. We'll send it out to all the folks taking the summer off from college. See you in September. Seal it with a kiss. The original oldie station, 98 WTRY, and it's just too late to turn back now. No, we forge ahead here. 20 minutes before 10 o'clock. Only 20 minutes left with Chris. Glad to have you along on this Saturday morning at 98 WTRY, reminding you that tomorrow at the Knickerbocker Field in North Troy, the Troy Family YMCA Cow Chip Bingo Fundraiser and Craft Fair. Now, there's a combination for you. Will be held from noon till 3. Prizes and surprises. Our own Tom Williams will be there for a great day of fun and fundraising for the Troy Family YMCA. Of course, after the Cow Chip contest, Tom will not be allowed back here in the main studio. For more information, call 272-5900. That's tomorrow, Knickerbocker Field in Troy. Should be fun. Join us, the original oldie station, 98 WTRY. 98 WTRY, the oldie station, remembers the birth of rock and roll. Don't hang up. 15 before 10 o'clock with Chris.
My God.
The original oldie station, 98 WTRY, from my favorite year in rock and roll music, 1964. Mary Wells and My Guy. 10 shy of 10 o'clock, it's a time natural. Naturally enough, we've got 10 minutes left in the Chris Warren get-together for this day, and then we're going to let go of your earlobe and turn it on over to Jeff Jordan, who's coming in and going to do his thing. And that doesn't happen too often, so, I mean, you got to listen. He'll be here from 10 till, 2 today? In there somewhere? All right, 10 till 2. You be tuning in. He's in the back right now, stacking things up, and I don't know what they are, but he's just stacking them up. We got to celebrate some birthdays today. Got to say happy birthday to Bronson Pinchot from Perfect Strangers. He's Balky, you know him. Yeah, he's 30 today. Ron Reagan is 31. This is the son of the former president. Okay, Cher, 43 today. George Goebel, Lonesome George, is 70 today. And interestingly, it was quite a few years ago on this date that Jimmy Stewart was born, 81 years ago. And of course, he also starred in that movie about the Lindbergh. That's what I'm trying to say. And that's on this date in history, too. So I wonder if that had anything to do with anything. Probably not. And so since I'm rambling on, we'll tell you we've got Bob Kovacic's weekend weather forecast, and it's a nice one coming up next.